Life is full of drama. Every day you're tasked with solving problems, trying to find a way out in this interminable maze. At times, it's easy to figure out the root of the issue, which makes it an effortless way out. But more often than not, we have to put a lot of thinking into making sense of why we feel a certain way, and what was that thing that made your mood shift, that made you confused and hesitant. Many of us underestimate the impact of our surroundings on our emotions and perceptions of the world. One misstep, and you end up attached to the wrong person, with your memory of what it meant to live a stable, calm life rapidly fading away. There are toxic people everywhere. This might be a person sitting beside you on a park bench, a colleague who always finds a way to belittle your ideas in the meetings, a friend who only calls you when they need something from you, a family member who turns every conversation into a guilt trip. You might not even realize where the agitation, anxiety, disappointment, disbelief, and many other negative emotions arise from up until the very end, when it feels like it is too late. Some people are easily manipulated while others are more resilient. No matter where you stand on the scale, there is a breaking point for everyone. In the end, when it comes to dealing with hostility, is it always about opposition? Sometimes it takes much more strength to process and accept the current reality, no matter how unfavorable, way before embarking on dealing with the issue itself. The truth is, no matter how much you try to avoid drama, life is the epitome of it. Therefore, unpleasant interactions can never be fully eradicated. Instead, one must learn to function coherently no matter what environment they're in, because ultimately our capacity to control is restricted by the boundary of our personal reactions to whatever occurs in our life and whoever we encounter. In the end, what matters most is not fixing every person you come across, but preserving your own sense of stability so that no one else's negativity can quietly dismantle it. There are so many different types of toxic people in this world. Among them, you can find narcissists, manipulators, drama magnets, people with victim mindset, self-centered people, and many other people. This is a trap because the more time you spend with those types of people, the more you become like them. It's almost like a cult, and gradually you might become a part of it if you're not careful enough. In this talk, I would like to address as many types of toxic people as I can. I would like to address the concept of a toxic person, and I would like to discuss my own experiences, how they shape me, and how you can learn to deal with toxicity in your life and put it to use. Use it as your advantage. Look at those experiences as learning experiences instead of victimizing yourself, instead of pretending that everything is so bad. You can look at your experiences with toxic people as gifts from life. You can look at those experiences as the most precious presents life could have ever presented you with. It is possible, I'm telling you. And those experiences really are the biggest gifts you could ever wish for. If I were to name one thing that is most dangerous about toxic people, I would say it is the fact that they are stealing your energy. And if I were to name one thing that you should pay attention to when you're dealing with those types of people, I would say you need to learn to preserve your energy. You need to learn to control your reactions, because you cannot control the outside world and you cannot control the people that come your way. You cannot control your environment. However, what you can and what you should learn to take control of is your reaction. Whenever you experience an emotion, you have to remind yourself that this is just an emotion. This is the product of your mind. You just need to let the emotion pass before you respond. Oftentimes, we get into arguments and we get so heated up, we want to respond straight away because we feel that somebody's our adversary. We feel this confrontation and we get angry, we get annoyed. And perhaps it comes from ancient times, perhaps it comes from when our ancestors were fighting for their life, when they were killing animals, and whenever they would sense the presence of the predator, for instance, they would sense that there is a tiger hiding somewhere. They would go into a fight with the tiger because later on the tiger might attack them if they do not go into the fight with the tiger. Right now we live in a bit of a different time. We live in a modern world where there is less danger out there. Obviously, there are multiple risks out there, risks of wars breaking out and stuff. However, we should be grateful for the time that we live in. We need to learn to understand where our emotions come from, and for this, we could always link it back to evolutionary psychology in order to understand that every emotion that comes your way is crucial, and every emotion that comes your way was developed through the process of evolution. And the second thing that we need to learn to do is to take hold of our emotions by just letting them pass before giving a response to that person. I know how tempting it is to say offensive words back to the person who said them to you, because you don't want to feel powerless, and nobody likes being diminished by the presence of another person. However, what people don't often understand is that those toxic people, what they are looking for is the reaction from you. You might be thinking that silence will make you weaker, but in fact, it will make you stronger, because by not giving toxic people what they are looking for, you are putting yourself in a less vulnerable position, and you're depriving those people of their expectations, of the crucial thing that they're looking for. There are many reasons why people turn toxic, and I will address this issue further out in this video or this talk. But right now, you have to adopt a stoic perspective. And for those who do not know what it is, the philosophy of Stoicism basically advocates for always analyzing the dichotomy of control. Picture two circles in your head. One circle has a smaller diameter than the other. So it's like one circle within another circle. Now, within a small circle are the things that you can control. These are your reactions. These are your decisions, your actions, everything to do with you. You can control it. Now, your environment, you mostly cannot control it. Of course, you can move countries. Of course, you can move cities. But mostly, your environment that you have around you is just something arbitrary that is outside of your control. Whenever we recognize the dichotomy of control, we can realize that a lot of things in life are outside of our control. And among those things are the things that other people do to us. We can either respond or withhold our response, take it, analyze what's going on inside us. Is it anger that I'm feeling? Is it frustration that I'm feeling? Is it jealousy that I'm feeling? Is it hurt that I'm feeling? And then transform those negative emotions into something positive. I believe that we are all similar in many ways, and you can look at other people as the mirror of you. Every person has some qualities that you have within yourself. It's only the extent to which those qualities are either heightened or diminished that provokes a certain response within you. You gotta understand that people come your way for a reason. Every toxic person, every bad person, every good relationship comes your way to teach you something. If you do not believe that, if you just prefer to think that life is unfair, this is your personal choice, and I'm not judging you. However, if we are here to learn something, we should learn it from the interactions with other people, because this is the thing that is integral in our life. So why don't we reverse this thinking that I'm so poor because I deal with so many pricks and idiots in this life? Why don't we reverse this thinking and look for the ways to take agency of our own emotions and become smarter? If we adopt this thinking that everybody is a mirror of you, there is something to be learned from every interaction. Look for the qualities within a toxic person that you despise. Are they greedy? Are they violent, verbally violent, physically violent? Are they short-tempered? Do you have any of those things within yourself? Now, I'm not saying that if somebody is physically violent to you, it means that you're physically violent to everybody around you. I'm just saying that some qualities in those people that you might find annoying, those are the qualities that you have within yourself, but they're just heightened. They are just on another crazy level. Understand your triggers. Understand what are the things that trigger you in people. For example, for myself, I'm very triggered by people with victim mindsets. I hate people who constantly waste their time not doing anything and then complain about the mediocrity. And when I started analyzing these things and why they annoy me, now I'm not saying that these traits are inherently toxic. I'm just addressing the quality of being annoyed at something, being angry at something. The things that you're annoyed at are the things that you have or used to have within yourself. So for myself, I realized that I used to be a lazy person and that I used to have a victim mindset. And the reason it annoys me is because it brings me back to the version of me that I used to be in the past. And I'm so scared of becoming this person again because I've worked extensively on building a better version of myself. And so whenever I see these people now, I tend to judge them really quickly. I tend to question, why are they this way? Why are they complaining? Like, it's so easy, just don't complain, just forget about it and live a normal life. But what we don't often understand, or what we often forget, is the struggle that it takes to change oneself. Right now, I'm talking about just annoying people. I'm not talking about people who are verbally or physically abusive or narcissists. I'm just addressing the mild quality of being annoyed at something. Look for the qualities within yourself, look for your triggers, understand your triggers, and work on those triggers. This way, you will be prepared for another interaction with an unpleasant person. I recently saw something on the internet that really caught my attention. And it went something like, education is one's ability to being able to listen to any opinion without feeling triggered by it. And I found this statement to be a really smart expression, because think about it. The people who get triggered the most are the people who are the least confident within themselves. The more a person is confident within themselves, the less they allow themselves to feel triggered, to get their emotion spiraling. And the reason for that is because the more we educate ourselves on different topics, the more we learn about the world around us, the more confident we become in our knowledge. So whenever we hear an oppositional opinion, it no longer is something that puts us into the space of uncertainty. It no longer is something that makes us doubt our own knowledge, but it is just something fun, something that reminds us that we actually are educated and that we are clever and that this person is deluded and mistaken. I do not, however, think that it is a good way to boost your ego by listening to less clever people expressing themselves and by feeling better about yourself. I'm just simply stating that we can use these situations in order to prove our extensive knowledge about the world around us once again. Previously, I would really get annoyed when somebody's spiritual perspective on the world wouldn't match with my spiritual views. It could be just some views on the existence of the higher power, or, for example, let's say I would get annoyed at somebody who would be super traditional and conservative and wouldn't necessarily understand my sort of more progressive views on the world. The more knowledge I gained on these topics that I was deeply interested in, the more I became certain in my perspective. And in doing so, I didn't necessarily discredit the perspectives of other people, but I've just grown so comfortable with what I thought and what was true for me that I no longer cared if somebody thought something opposite. Because first of all, the more you learn, the busier you get and the less time you have to think about what other people think. If they are rude or aggressive, you don't have time to even think about that. You don't have time to get triggered. You're just busy. You're on your own path, and you feel that when you're on your own path. You no longer care about any offensive comments from other people, any ways they use to distract you from your own path. The thing that you care about is following your own thing. And this is the thing that gets you up in the morning and makes you happy, not something that one person said to you 3 years ago. And the second thing was that I just accepted the fact that we are all so different and there is no universal truth really. And so the things that I used to find annoying were just the proof of my narrow-mindedness at that time. This way, we take power away from the words that are used by other people in order to trigger us. And words are often the most crucial weapon that toxic people will deploy in order to control you, in order to manipulate you, in order to get a certain reaction out of you. So whenever you become so certain in your own thoughts, in your own judgment, in your own construction and perception of this world, words can no longer influence you. And in combination with learning to take agency of your own emotions and being strong enough to let it just pass, you're invincible. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to the situation. You make friends with a particular person and everything is going well, and then down the line you notice yourself feeling different. Every day you wake up either sad, annoyed, angry, or without any energy. But you can never find the root of it. What is it that made me this way? What is it that sort of put me on this negative line of thinking? It might be confusing to you at first sight. And only later down the line, once you've spent 2 or 3 years with that person, you realize that, oh shit, they actually have so many bad qualities. Like they're narcissistic, they never have any empathy towards anybody, they always put themselves first, which is like always. Even when you need like a tiny favor, no, they would prefer to put themselves first, which is, I think, quite toxic if you always put yourself first, always, like all the time. It sometimes takes us a long time to discover that a person is toxic. And so if I was to say that there is a way to discover it faster, it would be listen to your intuition. A lot of people think of an intuition as something spiritual, and a lot of people in this world are just not spiritual. They're not prepared to expand their mind and learn about different concepts. They just prefer to live day by day, accomplishing their tasks that they're used to doing. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if I was to say intuition, it can be backed up by science and psychology, would you be surprised? Let me explain to you what intuition really is. Intuition happens when our brain operates based on the patterns that we have in our lives. And let me explain. Obviously, everybody knows that your brain has two hemispheres. It's right hemisphere and left hemisphere. Left hemisphere is more logical. Let's say it's responsible for solving mathematical equations, if it makes it easier for you to understand what it does. And right hemisphere is the creative side. Right hemisphere is responsible for finding patterns in your life. Let's say in the past, you dealt with two toxic people, and both of them were narcissists. The ways in which they embodied that narcissism were very different. One person didn't have empathy, and another person always cared about the profit that they would gain from their interactions with other people. So for your conscious mind, it would take quite a while to put those people into the same category. Your conscious mind is your thinking that you have in your head. The thoughts that you think out loud, which I don't mean that you speak these thoughts, but the thoughts that are clear, very clear, is your conscious mind. Your intuition is more unconscious and is controlled by the right hemisphere of the brain, which is responsible for finding those patterns and categorizing those things. So from every experience that you have in life, the right hemisphere puts this experience or this interaction into a certain category in your brain. And whenever another situation arises, it just puts it into a certain folder of the experiences or interactions that had already happened. If you find another narcissist, your right hemisphere puts it into a folder, which is not a literal expression. I mean, like in a pile of other experiences that are stored in your head with narcissistic people. And now you feel anxious because this is your intuition. This is your right hemisphere telling you do not go into this territory again. But when we think of our intuition as something spiritual, we don't tend to listen to it. We think that this is something crazy or arbitrary, and we just tend to get on with our life because we want to get things quick and we want to get those things that we want to get, obviously. We gotta be patient and we gotta understand that no emotion arises for no reason. Every emotion that we have, as I said, was developed through evolutionary psychology, through the process of evolution. And every emotion that we have is crucial. So we need to make effort to understand the root of every emotion that comes our way. Whether it be anxiety, sadness, disappointment, there is a justification of why that emotion happened. If you don't want to analyze those emotions, just listen to your intuition, because the brain has already done the massive job for you. And the thing that you have left to do is to just listen. This will spare you from years of wasting your time with a covert toxic person. Now, I'm sure somebody could have benefited from this advice, but undoubtedly so, there are situations in our life where we cannot escape toxic people that easily. They might be our family members, they might be a partner who's being manipulative, and in this case, you might be listening and thinking, this is just useless. Stas is living in some fairy tale and thinks that everything is possible, everything's good, guys, just don't listen to what people tell you, just process your emotions, it's so easy. I'm not saying that it's easy, and certainly there are cases where you have to wait a long time until you can leave. In those times, I would say, first of all, understand the deadline. Build a certain deadline in your head and say to yourself that by this time, I gotta leave. And while I'm with them, I'm gonna use this opportunity to get so strong that any other time after I leave, when I encounter a person like that, I'll be able to push them away on the snap of my fingers. It is really useful to have this mental milestone in our head in order to understand when the situation is going to end. Because hope is the main thing that we could have when dealing with toxic people who are impossible to escape. We need hope in our lives in order to operate and in order to get out of bed. And depression and the feelings of weakness comes from the lack of hope, from the disbelief that it is possible to change, that it is possible to improve the current state of things. Another thing that I would say, in those cases, do not let those people merge with you. Toxic people often operate in ways in which they're trying to prevent your communication with the outer world. They're trying to trick you into believing that other people who are close to you, because obviously it takes time to get to the point where a toxic person is the only person that you have. And then you find yourself questioning, how did I end up here? How did I end up with only them being a part of my circle and nobody else? Where's my family? Where's my loved ones? Where's my close ones? Those people operate in ways in which they're trying to restrict your access to the outside world. And it is done through words and manipulations and building false narratives to get you to believe in them. It is also done through a pity play, just saying, oh my God, I'm so poor, why don't you help me, decentering your attention and putting it onto helping them if you're a kind person. Do not lose yourself in the process of interacting with toxic people. A lot of times people think that they have to get so tough in order to deal with toxic people, that they have to forget who they are, that they have to just be this concrete rock in order to withstand all of the struggles that come when dealing with a certain person. However, it is not true. You should never lose your kindness if you're a kind person, and you should never lose your ability to forgive. It is very important that you remain true to yourself and you remain true to your morals when dealing with those people, because otherwise they will win. Otherwise, those toxic people will win and will get what they want, because that would mean that you would transform into them, that you would become one of them, that you would become a part of this group, a part of this cult of toxicity. By staying true to yourself, no matter what those people do, what they say to you, how they treat you, you will never lose the spark within you. And this is the most important thing that you have. When somebody is able to take away your spark, to take away your individuality and the person that you are from you, this is when it becomes so easy for them to control you, to manipulate you, to do anything to you on the snap of their fingers. But if you remind yourself every day of the person that you are and of the morals you have, and if you consciously prevent yourself from descending to that disgusting level that that person is operating on, you will never be fully controlled. If at least 5% of you remains free, if at least there is like a tiny portion, a tiny thought in your brain that still has hope of escaping, it can be expanded. The last thing that I would advise in this situation when you're stuck with a toxic person, stop thinking about the opinion of the others. This is actually the first thing that you should do. Just let go of this concept forever. There are normalities in our society, and those things you should probably abide by. I am not advocating for being naked on streets in front of children. I'm not saying that you should go shouting at people. Those are the conventions, and those are the conventions that are widely accepted. However, the opinions of the other people and the ways in which they use their tactics in order to tell you what lifestyle you should live, what places you should go to, you should not listen to that. By building up knowledge and by always questioning why you have certain emotions, what drives you to wake up every morning, why you have this specific job, do you like this job, do you dislike this job? By questioning yourself constantly, you become more and more certain on the things that you want in life, and you become less and less malleable and susceptible to the influence of other people. And a lot of times you might question why are they doing this thing? Like, what do they care about the life that I live? Why don't they just shut up? Well, that's because some people have nothing else to do, and this is your advantage. You should look at it as a reminder that thankfully you have something to do with your life. You have a lot of things to do with your life, in fact, because you're so focused on yourself, you're so focused on trying to achieve your goals, on trying to get the things in life that you want to get, that you do not have the time to make derogatory comments to other people. And if somebody else has the time for it, there's probably some sort of lack in their life. There's something that they're lacking. There's some experience that ruined them. And I'm not saying that now you should go around just smiling and being like, oh my God, sorry you were made this way. Now I'm just going to be friends with you forever. No, this is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is just be grateful that you have the goals, that you have the aspirations, that you have the ambitions. By having all those things and by remembering your purpose, the point of waking up every day, you'll never be influenced by the opinion of the others, because this will just be a mild distraction instead of something that could bring a major disappointment along the way. Let's get more spiritual. A little bit more spiritual, not crazy spiritual. I'm not talking about reincarnation yet. There are patterns in everybody's life, and we should look at every experience as a lesson, obviously. That is what I said, but where is spirituality in this? I think that until we learn a certain lesson with a specific person, life will keep giving us the same lesson. And I've addressed it a couple of times on this channel and on this podcast, but now I'm going to get extensively into that. In my life, I used to constantly deal with people who wanted to control me for a certain benefit that they thought about in their heads, and it always surprised me why. First of all, I realized that you should stop looking for reasons why people do certain things, like they just do them. Instead, try to find the pattern. Why is it that life has put you on the path with this toxic person? What is it that you can learn from it? There are parallels in your life if you look deeply enough. And you can find those parallels if you analyze the situations and interactions that you have. For example, somebody shouts at you out of nowhere and you might think that the person is just like a jerk. Why did they do that? But I truly believe that in this interaction, there is something. Maybe there is no reason that person shouted at you, but perhaps it is a reminder that something like that happened in the past and you didn't deal with it properly. Maybe you just turned it into a joke and now life has given you this experience again so that you can learn something from it. Life will keep testing you until you react in a way you're supposed to react. And you might ask me, what is the way I'm supposed to react in? Well, the mature way, of course. The way in which you do not let your emotions take control of you, and the way in which you're fearless. We need to become fearless. And we need to understand that the things that scare us the most will keep on coming our way until we learn to deal with those things and until they no longer provoke fear within us. Because if you're constantly scared of being judged by others, and this is your main fear, you will keep getting people on your path who judge you for no reason. And you could be the kindest person ever and you could be the best looking person in the world, but people will keep judging you. And instead of thinking about the reasons why they do that, you should question yourself, what is it that I did wrong in the past that brought me back to this experience again? Once you learn the lesson, you will most likely receive less and less of those situations. And if I were to explain it psychologically, of course, when you learn a lesson, and of course, when you learn to deal with a specific type of person, the other times when you receive that person again, who, for example, as I said, shouts at you out of nowhere, you just don't even pay attention to that because now it's encoded within your brain, the way you deal with it, the way you react to it. So why would you even pay attention to another one of those 100 people who previously shouted at you? It's just one of 100. You deal with them the way you dealt with the others because it's always the same way. Let them shout and then push them back by asserting your boundaries. And then you move on. By learning to understand the patterns in our life by questioning why we have certain interactions and why they keep repeating, and what would be the perfect way in which our life would like us to respond in, we limit the number of toxic interactions that we have. I look at all of those other articles, videos, books on dealing with toxic people, and a lot of them forget one crucial thing, which is forgiveness. And you might be so angry right now that I said it. You might be like, why do you say that? No, that person hurt me so bad. I'm not saying that you should be friends with them. I'm not saying that you should start communicating with them. I'm addressing forgiveness as something that you should work on deep within yourself. Let me explain. For some people, it is enough to have one interaction to remain wounded for the rest of their life. For some people, it takes multiple things to break them. But there is a breaking point in everybody, and there is a limit. A traumatic memory becomes a reality for a person who has experienced it. Your brain cannot tell the difference whenever you recall a traumatic memory. It is reliving the same emotions. It is releasing the same chemicals. It is provoking the same reaction, and it is destroying your nerve cells again and again and again. It is making you frail and weak. When we suppress it, we just let it linger inside us, and we become weaker without even knowing how much harm we are inflicting on ourselves. And so, in order to process the experience, we need to let it go through us, and we need to be able to forgive. The more you are attached to this traumatic experience with that person, the more you think about the hurt they inflicted on you, the stronger is the emotional bond that you create between you and that person. And you might no longer be in touch with each other. You might no longer communicate with one another. It doesn't matter. The emotional bond is still there. Your thinking and the amount of time that you spend thinking about that person who did that bad thing to you, it ruins you completely. And they are sitting somewhere there having the best life of their own, while you're here stuck in the past, reprocessing that again and again and again. Why do you feel the need to constantly recall that bad experience? You don't, so that's why you suppress it. That's also not the best way, because now your unconscious mind is dealing with it. You just tossed it like a piece of garbage to your unconscious mind because you cannot deal with it. But no, you just have to let it pass through you. You just have to be brave enough to open up to it fully, to relieve it fully once, and then the emotion will go away. Think about it. You have so much energy within you that you could use to create the life that you want to have, to create your dream life. You have so much energy within you to make friends that you always dreamed of, to have a relationship that you always dreamed of, to build financial security for yourself. And instead you choose to waste that precious energy that would never come back, that you cannot buy with money, onto that person that hurt you in the past. And that person no longer even remembers your name, but you're still thinking about them every day. You're still thinking about the betrayal, the hurt they inflicted on you, and you choose to waste your own precious resource onto thinking about them. And by doing this, they're feeding off of you, and you do not even realize that. This energy can be used for anything. This energy can be used to transform you, to make you fully the person that you've always dreamt of becoming, but instead, you just chose to waste it. Forgiveness is our ultimate understanding of the fact that we have a lot of excessive energy. And forgiveness is our willingness to let the emotion and the hurt pass through us and have the courage to no longer be attached to it. Because it is convenient for us to be attached to negative emotions. They give us a sense of routine, they give us a sense of comfort, and they construct our identity, the identity of a victim. In comparison, letting go is very hard. Letting go requires you to be brave enough to embrace the uncertainty, to embrace the newness in your life, and say, I'm no longer defined by that experience with that person. I choose to forgive and move on. Another definition of forgiveness is coming from a place of understanding others. I'm not saying that you should go back to that toxic relationship and be with that person forever until the rest of your days, because once you promised them that you would be with them until the rest of your life. No. I'm just saying that people are not born this way. People are not born toxic. People are made this way through their circumstances. And by having compassion within us, we can rewire our thinking. And we can achieve the ultimate freedom in dealing with other people. It is very important that you understand the thin line between letting others control you for their own benefit while being kind, and having the kindness to forgive others and having compassion to understand their current situation. The first case scenario turns you into an easy prey that can be used by everybody and everything because you're so reluctant to build your own boundaries and state the things that other people can no longer do to you, because you're so afraid to communicate with other people and to state that you cannot treat me this way, okay? Because if you do treat me this way, then I'm just going to leave. The second case scenario is not being a narcissist and having the empathy and coming from the place of compassion, trying to understand that everybody has their defense mechanism. Some people are smart enough, some people are brave enough to work on themselves and to learn to control their own emotions, and some people are just stupidly choosing to use abuse in order to have the sense of agency over their own life. Because of course it's always easier to find the victim and to bully them if you were bullied in your childhood, instead of working on the root of it, reliving those unpleasant emotions, and then realizing that your perception of the world is in fact very subjective. It is based on that one experience that happened to you, and now your whole personality, your view of the world is defined by that experience. Think about how pathetic it is. You think that everybody is a liar because your significant other lied to you multiple times in the past, but that was only one person out of 8 or 8.5 billion people on our planet. And you let that person define your whole view of this wide, huge world? Are you kidding me right now? Do you really think that everybody is a liar? And how do you think that this is a reasonable judgment and a reasonable perspective? Why do you think that the whole reality should be based on the way that you think? By being open-minded and by listening to others, hearing about their stories, we understand that we are not alone in this world, that everybody is dealing with something, and by being open to listening instead of only being focused on our victim situation and on our bad situations that happen to us, we understand that it in fact happens to everybody. It's only that some people choose to learn from that, while others choose to complain about the unfairness of the world. We do not have to live in a survival mode all the time. In fact, this is very foolish to think that life is designed to make you suffer. You're not supposed to suffer, and you were not brought on this earth to suffer. We need to learn to rewire our survival thinking into thinking that the universe wants to see us succeed. Because if that is your truth, then the life itself will align with this thinking that you have. I know you're waiting to tell me what kind of spiritual bullshit is that. If you're constantly anxious and if you're constantly afraid that somebody might hurt you, that somebody might use you, that somebody might take advantage of you, how are you meant to achieve something in life? Your anxiety limits your full capacity of expressing yourself, your full potential. If we consider another example where there is a person who thinks, oh, the universe just wants to see me succeed, that is the person who wakes up every day and has zero doubts in themselves, in the work that they do, because they know that no matter what happens, no matter what issue or problem they face on their way, no matter what kind of crazy interactions they have, this is all a part of a learning experience. By thinking optimistically, we adopt this other perspective on life, and we become simply insufferable. Because with this perspective, whatever happens for a reason, and in fact happens for the better. So how can you let anything get stuck within you if you know that whatever happens will just get you to that place eventually? But this is just a part of a learning experience. The way to operate from this higher place is learning to be grateful, operating from the place of gratitude. No matter where you are right now, you should learn to do two things. You should learn to be grateful for your present, finding the small mundane things that you can cherish and appreciate. And you can do this by remembering that the things that you dreamt of 2 years ago, at least one of those things you have right now. Trust me, this is true. Remember about all those things that you wished for, and obviously on a daily basis we wish for many multiple things. And now think about your current reality. You have at least one of those things. Another thing that we should practice is being grateful for the things that we want to have in our life. You're thinking, oh my god, he's like literally gone insane. I know, some people think that. Let's talk about it, and let's talk why this is important. The way I personally practice this is through meditations. There are specific meditations that are designed to let you feel gratitude for the future that you want to achieve. And you can look it up, you can search it up. I'm not going to tell you about specific meditations that I practice because I think it is subjective, and I think one should have their own thing that they practice and that they prefer to listen to or whatever. But I'm just saying meditating is very useful for that, because this way we learn to already live in the skin of the person that we envision ourselves we will ultimately become, that we wish we would become. By feeling gratitude for the future and for the things that we want to appear in our lives, we train our brain to think in bigger and more expanded ways. We train our brain to accept that reality that we want to have is in fact possible. If it exists within our head already, if it is something that we felt was real because we felt all of those emotions that we are supposed to feel when we are faced with that reality that we want to achieve, because again, our brain cannot distinguish our thinking from reality. If we have felt those emotions, then we are no longer desperate to achieve this thing. We no longer operate from the place of lack. We no longer crave that thing anymore. We are just certain that if this had already happened, and if I have felt those emotions, then what prevents it from happening again and again? Because if I experience the emotions that I would supposedly experience with, for example, buying a new car or buying that house, if I've already felt it so many times, then why can't I feel it once again? The only difference is where you feel it, in your head or in reality. But trust me, this is not such a big difference. The emotions that you feel are much more important than your reality. It is very crucial to understand that there is no linear relationship between these two things. It's not our emotions or our reality that come first. So if you feel the emotions that come with the reality that you would like to have, the reality adapts to those emotions. If you do not believe this, just try it for a month. Just think about a small thing that you would like to have, be specific about it, try to feel those emotions that thing brings you, and then see what happens. You will be impressed by the tiny miracles that start happening in your life. The last thing that I would like to talk about here is the futility of revenge. Revenge is simply useless. The only people who would like revenge on somebody are the people who do not know how to control their own emotions. Those are short-tempered people, and those are the people who don't believe in the laws of the universe. There is such a thing as karma, and it fucking works. You should not think about what that person will get and how they will get it. Stop trying to control the things outside of your control. Stop trying to control the lives of other people. Stop trying to control the ways in which other people treat you. Stop it. Establish your boundaries. Do everything in your power. But whatever is left, and if that person keeps treating you the same way, just leave. And leave it up to life itself to treat them the way they deserve. Trust me. Stop trying to control everything. I know that it is within our human nature, and I know that it is hard to let go of control and just trust in the universe to operate instead of taking the action ourselves. Revenge will lead you to nothing. When people commit revenge, it is done by operating from the place of negativity, from the place of really low vibration. And what do you achieve from that? You become that person who you once hated. You become that disgusting being who treats people like shit. And so it means that that person who once has done that thing to you, they have achieved what they wanted. They have gotten the same disgusting action from you. You are now turned into that toxic person that you once despised by committing revenge. Life will take care of them. The universe will take care of them. Stop thinking that you have to take control of everything. Stop thinking that you are omnipotent and that you have to have everything under control, that you have to punish that person for what they have once done to you. Make your own judgment. Take your action in limiting your contact with that person if you think that they're toxic. But do not try to be nasty to other people if they're nasty to you. By giving the negativity back, by mirroring what life gives to us, we will get it back 1,000 times more if we do not learn from those experiences and instead let them transform us in very negative ways. The thing that life itself was trying to teach us not to do. I've been working so much for the past 3 months on this podcast that today I slept for 13 hours. I'm not lying, I slept for 13 hours. Oh my God. And I woke up at 1 and I think I started my day at 3. Because I was trying to make a strawberry matcha for an hour. This is not a fucking joke. I'm not kidding you. Which turned out amazing. Instead, despite the fact that then I got sick. If you enjoy these episodes, if you find them useful, if you can relate, follow me on social media at Blue Hour Podcast. Listen to the video episodes exclusively on YouTube and Spotify, and audio episodes on whatever streaming platform you use to listen to podcasts. And drop me a DM if you have any ideas for the future episodes that I should record. If you have any thoughts on this particular episode or on any other episode, if you agree or disagree with some of the things that you said, if you need advice, if you want to discuss something, if you want collaborations, just drop me a DM at Blow Hour Pod on Instagram or at LUTINSTAS320 for professional inquiries and collaborations. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you would tune in next week. I'm tired. Bye bye.